Hello everyone, welcome back. I know it's been a long time since I posted videos on this project. I'm going to continue doing from idea to launch all the way through. Took a pause, but we're coming back. And one of the reasons I took a pause was that I think the code was getting a bit messy and I've been learning a lot about doing front-end development. I wasn't say properly, but better. And so I'm going to restart this series. But what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to kind of rewrite some parts of it. So the app we're building is this. Just going to give a quick overview. We just want to collect anonymous feedback quite quickly and simply with a little application. So we get this ability to sign in, have general rating about how we're doing, be able to create events people can give feedback on. And where is it over here? Yeah, we can get people to submit feedback. What we're going to do this time is we're going to go through and we're going to rewrite most of what we have already, which is not much. We have this login page, and it's using a different type of authentication, but I'm going to replace it with Firebase. And we also have, I think, a home page here. Let me just go to it, which is rather exciting if you want to check it out. So yeah, so the home page, nothing super special. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to do a few things. Today, we're just going to get Firebase set up and replace our authentication screen. We're going to use Geist UI, and specifically the React version of Geist UI, which just gives us a bunch of components pre-made to use, which are nicely styled. And we're going to replace all of the custom elements I've been building with these. Now, of course, we're going to change a little bit and customize a little bit. So we'll change our colors and that sort of thing. And we might override some styles eventually, but at this point, I'd rather just build it quickly with components that work. The other piece we're going to do, and we'll start on today, is using Firebase to do our authentication and our storage. So let's go ahead and start that. We're going to add a project. I'm just going to toss it into one of my existing cloud platforms here. Okay, continue with that. Yep. Start off simple. Okay. Yeah, we want to enable analytics. Great. Good. We want to enable analytics. I'll put it on this account, which I use for everything. Okay. Great. Okay, we're here. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up two things. We're setting up authentication, and we're going to set up Firestore. Let's go ahead and do that. Authentication. There's obviously no users, sign-in methods. I'm pretty lazy. So I'm going to enable Google sign-in. Save. Lovely. And maybe I'll enable, let's do email and password sign-in. Enable this. And yeah, passwordless sign-in seems great. And we'll configure that with web. Save. Great. So we have email and password set up. We have Google set up on authentication, which is wonderful. Now the templates, sorry, the usage. Yeah, great. So let's go Firestore and set that up. Create the database. We're going to start in production so we can allow read and writes. Go ahead and do next. Yeah, so US Central is good for me, so I'll enable that. Okay, so that's all set up. Eventually, we'll come and configure these rules to allow certain people to write to certain areas, but for now it's fine. Now let's get into how do we use this. So what we're going to do here is we're going to head over to our project overview. We're going to hit this little icon here, the settings. Go to project settings. The very bottom, you'll say your apps, which we have done right now, and we're making one for the web, which is this symbol here. Click on that. Let's give it a nickname, Wachstum.space. We don't want to do Firebase hosting, so we're going to host with Vercel at the end. Register that application. Great. Now there's all a bunch of stuff you can copy and paste if you're doing different types of applications, but we're going to use Node packages for this, so we're just going to want to keep all of these pieces of information. And actually, we're not going to need all of them. We'll only need a few. So let's go ahead and switch to our browser, our code, and copy and paste these in. Okay, so here we are in the project. It's been a while since we've been in here. I created a new page called join, so I don't want to touch the login page just yet. So we're going to replace our login page with this join page. I'm going to go ahead and add a few packages. So we're going to add our Geist UI for React specifically. We're going to add Firebase and Firebase-admin. And Firebase admin is allowing us on Node.js to be able to access our tokens and verify tokens so we can do things on the back end. Firebase itself here, it allows us to operate on the front end. So we'll go ahead and add those things. Beautiful, all done. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and create sort of we can use a services directory. We can create a Firebase. We already have database and Auth, but we're gonna kind of get rid of these as we go. We'll create a Firebase file. Lovely, and we'll import our Firebase from Firebase-app. We'll also import a few libraries that we're going to be using, which is Firebase/Auth. And since we enabled analytics, Firebase Analytics. Perfect. Now we're going to create up our config, which is where we're going to paste in all of this nonsense. Now it can't exactly be like this, because of course we want to use these environment variables. So let's go ahead and store in our, I don't have an env file yet. Maybe it's on a new machine. So .env, .local, create that file, beautiful. And we're gonna, I think I have these in, yeah, there we go. Copy and paste these in. Now some of these have to be available in the front end, and so we need to prefix them with next_public, and we'll call this one Firebase API or public, because it's public _API key. I can type something. Wonderful. We need the auth domain, which is this one here, and that also needs to be public. So we'll do next public Firebase auth domain. Wonderful. We need the database URL. Let's do this. Also needs to be public. Next public Firebase DB URL. Wonderful. And the project ID. Now these things, we might need them if we choose to use other pieces of Firebase's functionality, but at this point we're not going to. So next public Firebase project _ID. Good. Now if we head over here, we're going to set these up. So we need API key, auth domain, database URL, and project ID, and the rest of them for now we don't need. And instead of hard coding these like this, we're going to use process.env and then we'll put the name in. Okay, there we go. So we have our config kind of set up. Now what we're going to do is we're going to export this function, and we'll call it initialize Firebase. We only want to do this once per page, so we'll make sure we get this in a function. We can just call it to initialize it. So we say if not Firebase.apps.length. If we haven't initialized it yet, make sure we initialize it. So we'll do Firebase.initialize app, and we'll pass our config in. There we go. Now, of course, Firebase has lots of great documentation that you walk you through all the things it can do, but this is kind of the setup that I followed, especially for Next.js. This keeps it just a bit more simple. So next, we're going to head over to our join page, which will be our new authentication page, and we're going to start writing out what the functions will look like and what our components will look like to render the next page. So we're going to import some components from Geist UI. So text, a button, a row component, and a function called use toasts. And that'll just be for errors and things like that. And this is from Geist UI /React. And of course, we're going to need a few other things like the router from Next.js. Router. We're going to need our Firebase from Firebase/app, as well as Firebase auth. Now, we may not need these because we import them from the other file, which we import in a second, that we just created, but we'll import them just in case. Import init Firebase from, and we put it in services/Firebase. Now, this is the default export for now, and we may end up changing that. So there we go. So we have init Firebase from there, and we want to make sure we have call that when the file loads. So we'll initialize that Firebase. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up just the Google Auth provider today. So we'll have const provider equals new Firebase, since we imported it up here. Oops, that's the router. Here, Firebase. New Firebase.auth. Google Auth. Oh my goodness. Auth provider. We're going to set up a scope as well. We don't need scopes, do we? No, we don't need scopes. But if you wanted to add a scope, you can do, put it in a comment here, provider.add scope, scope, and you can pass in whatever scope you'd want in here. For now, we're fine. I don't think we need any scopes. We really just want to be able to authenticate somebody. We really just want to authenticate somebody. All right, now let's get into our component. Export default function joins the page. We don't have any props, which is great. And let's set up some state here. So const authorizing. Oh, that's not how you spell that. And then set authorizing. Did I even import use state? I might not have. Use state. And will be false. We're not authorizing right away. I didn't. I should probably import that. Import React and use state from React. Now the reason I didn't import React initially was because this is a page of Next.js and it's auto imported, so we need to do that. So technically I could also do this and just for import use state, and it should be fine. Good, okay, let's just go ahead and write the render. Nothing crazy, nothing fancy right now. So return, and I want to put these all in sort of a page component here. I forgot to import the page, didn't I? Page is a nice page component. And then I'm going to do a couple of rows. And I want them to be centered. So justify center, whoa, equals center. So I can spell. And we'll do 3 of those. The first one, we'll put some text in here. And H1 for the title. Say join now. I'll work on the text later. Text here, like the actual content. Make an H2, click below to sign in or join. There, and then we'll toss a button in this one here. Button, boom. And we'll call this get started. Perfect. One more thing I'm going to add to this button is a state for its loading. So I have this loading state, and I put this authorizing Boolean, put that in here. So if it's authorizing, it'll be loading, otherwise it's not. So let's go ahead and just run this app. It's already running. Okay, I did a big mistake. I didn't put process.end in front of these things, I just pasted them in. That was over wrong. Okay, back over here. Perfect, okay, so join now, click below to sign in, and we hear a get started links, which does nothing right now. See, isn't Geist UI just nice? Look at how nice it is. No styling, just place these things in. Okay, next we got the handle when we actually click this button for authentication. So let's go handle authentication, and it'll be async because we're going to need to make some requests. Okay, so as soon as we get in here, what we're going to want to do is set authorizing to be true. That's not how you spell that. True. Perfect. So that's going to allow us to like disable this button, get that loading state. Next, in a try catch, we're going to go ahead and use Firebase. So we're going to go const result equals await. To say asynchronous call here. Firebase.auth, which is a function, .sign in with pop up, and we'll pass a provider we configured earlier. Provider. From there, we can get a couple things out. We can get the user. We can get the credentials for that provider from the result. Result. Perfect. We can also do something like if we don't have a user, we probably want to throw a new error. I'm not sure this is possible to not have a user, but just in case. There was an issue authorizing. What I'm saying is probably what will happen is if this fails, it'll throw an error in this catch, we'll catch it. But for some reason it doesn't, it still fails, but it fails kind of silently. If we don't have that user object, we want to throw an error. And we can get into our catch function here. We'll probably want to add in a toast for that error, something simple. And what we'll do then is, at the very end, set our authorization to false. Good. The other thing we want to do is if we do sign in successfully, we're going to push on, whoops, that's not how you spell that. In the router, we're going to push on this route so we can navigate away. Okay, I think this is probably all that we want to do. Handle authentication, set our authorization to true. Go ahead and authorize with Firebase, specifically with our provider, which if we look up here is the Google Auth provider. Get our user and credential out of that, which we'll just console log for this point. Credentials. And I'll put that in an object so we can see. Good. If we don't have a user, we're going to throw an error. and then when we're successful, we'll push home. If we're not successful, we should probably handle it somehow, but at this point, we're not going to do that. And then we'll go ahead and set that authorization to false. Great. Okay, let's try that out. Oh, wait, I didn't add the click handler. On click, handle authorization, which I believe is what I called it. Handle authentication. Such a fool. There we go. Okay, back over here. So I click get started. Amazing, I get my pop-up. I'm going to sign in with Google, specifically for this. We can configure all that later. So it shows our proper application name. Oh no! Oh no! I made a spelling mistake. Darn it. But you can see in the background here, if I close this arrow down, you got navigated to the beginning page. And darn it. We'll have to do this again so we can get the user object. I didn't even print them because we navigated. Okay, and you know what we can do is simply, we'll just take this out. Let me make sure the spelling mistake doesn't break. Boom. Okay, good. So we're not going to navigate. We're just going to see the same page just so we can not turn on this here. Good. Here. Okay, so click this, get started, pops up this, click here, authorizing, boom, done. And you can see, look at this, user is this, credentials undefined. Let's take a look here. We don't need credentials, I guess. We didn't ask for any scopes. We just wanted to authenticate. So there's a bunch of nasty junk in here. You can see my email, my name, which are really all we want. And then there's the ability to get the profile picture from somewhere in some of these objects, which is great. There it is, photo URL. So that's my photo. You can go to this page. Boom. Which is all we really need. Then we have a user ID, which is going to be key. And this XA, if you read some of the documentation, is actually the token. So we want to keep this as well. And this is what we will validate against on the back end. Good. So I think that's a pretty good introduction into how we're going to start switching this over to use authentication with Firebase. Now, of course, this isn't persisted whatsoever. We didn't use any cookies. We didn't set up the back end. So next video, we'll go ahead and do that. Thanks for watching. Please like if you like this content and subscribe for more of it. Also, if this is not your style, but you're like, please, I have this thing that I want you to be doing, to be coding or talking about, message me on Twitter, message me on Facebook, leave a comment below, and I'll be happy, more than happy to create content that you would love to see.